There is a person in your workplace that you cannot quite name what they are. They are not a declared enemy. They are not someone with whom you have openly fought. It is a presence that bothers you, an energy that destabilizes. Someone who, every time they enter the same room as you, your body warns you before your mind processes it. And this name begins with M. It could be a Maria, a Monica, a Marcia, a Marcos, a Marcelo, a Marcio, a Michelle. It could be the manager, the desk colleague, the subordinate who insists on appearing to be an ally. It could be the one who laughs with you, but runs to the boss with distorted information. It could be the one who congratulates you in front of everyone and sabotages you behind the scenes. What I am going to reveal to you today is not divination, it is recognition. Because the letter M is not magic, it is an anchor, and when I finish showing you the spiritual and psychological profile of this person, you will know exactly who it is. Stay until the end, because besides revealing who this person is and what they are doing, I will show you what God wants you to do with this knowledge, and the answer will surprise you, because the solution is not war, it is strategy, the most powerful one that exists. Let us begin with a reality that no one in Brazil speaks of openly, but which almost everyone over 35 years of age has already experienced within some workplace environment. You have already lost a promotion you deserved and never quite knew why. You have already been set aside in an important project without a clear explanation. You have already felt that an idea of yours was presented by another person as if it were theirs. You have already been the target of a conversation in the corridors that reached you, distorted through third parties. You have already noticed that some people smile at you at breakfast and seem different in the meeting. This is not paranoia. It is the Brazilian corporate and institutional environment, with all its relational complexity. An environment where power relations are rarely explicit, where the dispute happens between the lines, where the game is played with smiles, and where the knife in the back never has an identifiable fingerprint. And within this environment, there exists a specific type of person who operates with mastery, who knows the unwritten rules, who understands the power of information and perception, who knows exactly what to say to whom, when, and how, so that the result is always favorable to them and often unfavorable to you. Today I will give you the complete profile of this person, and more than that, I will give you the spiritual and practical key for you to not only protect yourself, but to leave this dynamic in a much better position than you entered. There exists a concept in organizational psychology called Machiavellianism. The name comes from Niccolò Machiavelli, the Italian thinker who in the 16th century wrote the most honest manual on the strategic use of power known to Western history. Machiavellianism, as a personality trait identified by psychology, describes people who use strategic manipulation in relationships, who have a cynical view of human nature, who prioritize self-gain above genuine connections, and who are highly skilled in managing their own image. When you combine Machiavellianism with envy, with unresolved insecurity, and with a competitive work environment, you have the exact recipe for the person who is plotting against your peace. But here is something that most people do not understand about this type of profile. This person does not wake up in the morning and consciously plan to destroy you. They operate from a much more primitive and much more automatic impulse. They feel that you represent a threat to their position, not necessarily because you tried to take their place, but because your presence, your level of competence, your way of relating, your peace, your light, contrasts with what they are and cannot manage to be. And this contrast bothers them in a way they do not know how to name, so they act instinctively, strategically, and silently. Spirituality has a complementary understanding of this. There is a very ancient maxim in the wise traditions, where there is light, there is shadow. The more you advance in your purpose, the more you stand out with integrity, the more you grow genuinely, the more you will attract the type of opposition that appears disguised as collaboration. This is not a curse, it is natural contrast. The candle that illuminates also projects a shadow, and the shadow always has a name. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell now. This channel exists to give you clarity in moments when the game around you is confusing, and this content will continue to arrive every week. Let Let us now go to the detailed profile, the signs that identify with precision who is plotting against your peace at work. Think of someone while I speak, whether the name begins with M or not. What matters is the pattern. The first sign is excessive interest in your projects. This person wants to know everything about what you are doing. They ask questions that seem like friendly curiosity, but are, in truth, information gathering. They need to know what you are building so they can position themselves strategically in relation to it, or to take the information to those who have decision-making power over your future in the company. Beware of those who ask too much about your plans with a smile. The second sign is public agreement and private contradiction. In the meeting before the group, this person agrees with you, validates your ideas, sometimes even praises you. But in bilateral conversations with the boss, with the director, with those who make decisions, they plant doubts. Not in a direct way, in a surgical way, a question here, a reservation there, a concern expressed with apparent good intention. I don't know if so-and-so's proposal considers all the risks. I was wondering if his team has the capacity to deliver this on time. I'm even worried about the level of pressure he is putting on the team. Each of these phrases, said at the right moment to the right person, is a seed of doubt about you. The third sign is captured credit. You shared an idea in an informal setting, in a corridor conversation, in an uncommitted brainstorming session. Days later, this idea appears in the mouth of another person, in a slightly modified format, as if it were theirs. And when you try to reclaim authorship, the situation has already been constructed in such a way that any claim of yours seems like pettiness. This capture of credit is rarely crude enough to be reportable. It operates in the gray zone, in the space where collective memory is easy to distort. The fourth sign is the creation of strategic dependency. This person creates situations where you need them. They offer help at strategic moments. They put their foot in your door before the door opens by itself. They create a feeling that you have a debt of gratitude toward them. And then they use this debt as a bargaining chip, explicitly or implicitly, in the power dynamics of the environment. The fifth sign is privileged access to your vulnerabilities. You opened up to this person at some point. You told them about a difficulty, an insecurity, a moment of doubt about your capacity. And this information was not kept with respect. It was archived. And it will be used when it is strategically convenient as an argument that you are not ready, are not well, do not have the profile that the moment requires. And the sixth sign, the most disturbing of all, is the peace that leaves when they are nearby. You can work an entire day under pressure and arrive home reasonably intact. But 30 minutes with this specific person, and you are exhausted, suspicious, off-center, with that feeling that the ground is slightly unstable. This is not an emotional datum to be discarded. It is a precise spiritual datum. Your field registers what your rational mind has not yet completely processed. How many of these signs did you recognize? If 3 or more applied to the same person, you have the answer as to who it is. Now I need to ask you a question that will turn everything upside down. A question that courageous people ask, and people who prefer to remain in a victim position avoid. Why specifically you? Why did this person choose you as a target? What exists in you that activates this type of dynamic in them? Because within a work environment with several people, the Machiavellian rarely distributes attention equally. They have specific targets, and the choice of the target is not random. The answer, in most cases, is uncomfortable to hear because it is a compliment disguised as discomfort. You represent something they want and do not have. It could be genuine competence. It could be the quality of your relationships with the people around you. It could be your reputation for integrity. It could be the recognition you receive. It could be your peace in an environment where they have no peace at all. It could be your clarity of purpose in a moment when they do not know where they are going. Envy is always a crooked mirror. It shows the envious person what they desire and have not developed in themselves. And because the mirror is crooked, what they see seems like a threat instead of an inspiration. So you are not a target despite being who you are. You are a target because of who you are. This does not make the situation any less difficult, but it completely changes the angle from which you face it. Because if you understand that you are a target due to your light, you stop trying to become smaller so as not to attract attention. and you begin to work on becoming larger, more strategic, more protected, so that the light continues to exist without becoming a vulnerability. Let us enter the spiritual perspective. Because what the Bible has to say about enemies in the workplace is much more strategic than most people imagine. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 26, there is a series of verses that describe with frightening precision the profile of those who plot in the backstages. Verse 22 says that the words of a whisperer are like choice morsels that go down into the innermost parts of the being. That is, the words of the manipulator are pleasant to hear, enter easily, and cause damage inside, far from sight. Verse 24 says that an enemy disguises himself with his lips, but in his heart he harbors deceit. Verse 26 says that, though his hatred be covered with deception, his wickedness will be exposed in the assembly. This is crucial. The Bible does not say that you need to expose the enemy. It says that they will expose themselves at the right moment, before those who need to see. And the book of Nehemiah is perhaps the most complete manual of how an upright leader deals with veiled opposition in a work environment. Nehemiah was rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, and there were opponents who tried in every way to stop him. Sanballat and Tobiah used exactly the tactics I described: false agreement, creation of distorted narratives, attempts to involve him in conflicts that would take him off focus, invitations to meetings that were traps disguised as collaboration. Nehemiah's response is a model of spiritual and strategic intelligence that spans 3,000 years and remains totally applicable. He said, "I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you?" And he continued building. He did not ignore the opposition. He recognized it, placed strategic guards at the vulnerable points, and continued the work. This is God's answer for those who are being plotted against at work. Do not abandon the work. Do not descend to the level of the conflict. Recognize the enemy, protect the vulnerable points, and continue building. There exists a dimension of conflict at work that very few people consider, and that makes all the difference in the long-term result. It is the dimension of the field of collective perception. The work environment functions as a field of narratives. Each person is building and feeding a narrative about themselves and about others, and the narrative that wins is not necessarily the true one. It is the most consistently communicated, the most well-distributed in the nodes of influence of the group. The one who is plotting against you understood this before you did. That is why they work the narratives. That is why they are always in the right places, saying the right things to the right people. They are cultivating a field of perception about you that is different from reality, but which has enough coherence to create doubt in those who do not know you directly. The answer to this is not to counterattack in the same coin. That takes you out of your field of strength and places you in theirs, where they already have the advantage. The answer is a strategy that most people underestimate: being absolutely irreproachable in what is visible. Not in theory, in concrete practice, delivering results that speak for themselves, maintaining quality relationships with people who have credibility in the environment, documenting your work and your contributions in a clear and accessible way, communicating your achievements directly, without arrogance but without excessive modesty that leaves space for others to claim the credit. The upright person who delivers consistently creates a narrative about themselves that is much more difficult to distort than the narrative of those who depend only on relationship and perception. Like this video if you are finding here the type of clarity you are seeking. This helps the channel reach more people who are needing exactly these perspectives. Now let us go to what God wants you to do, and I promised it would be surprising, so I will fulfill the promise. God does not want you to destroy the one who is plotting against you. God wants you to be so powerful in who you are that the plot has nowhere to rest. This is different from ignoring. It is different from forgiving and naively forgetting. It is different from becoming passive and waiting for God to resolve it while you do nothing. It is an active, strategic, and spiritually mature posture that functions in 4 simultaneous movements. The first movement is rooting in purpose. The person who knows exactly why they are in that environment and what they came to build has an internal stability that the plot cannot shake. Because the plot works when you are insecure about your own value, when you are needing external validation, when you are dependent on the opinion of others to know that you are good enough, when you are rooted in your purpose, when you know what you came for and are acting from that. The plot does not find the space of insecurity where it usually installs itself. Ask yourself this question with honesty. Why am I in this job? What am I building here? What is the real contribution I can give in this environment? If you have clear answers to these questions, you have the first level of protection. The second movement is active relational intelligence. This means mapping your environment with attention, knowing who the nodes of real influence are, not the titles on the business card, but who really shapes decisions, perceptions, and narratives. Cultivating genuine relationships with these people, not out of strategic interest, but out of authentic connection, and ensuring that those who have decision-making power over your future in that environment have direct access to your real contribution, not filtered by the interpretation of those who have an interest in distorting it. The third movement is consistent spiritual protection. This is real and it is practical. It is not superstition. It is the recognition that work environments have collective energetic fields that can be contaminated by envy, by conflict, by anxiety, and by negative intentions, and that you can, through specific practices, keep your personal field protected and clean within this context. Begin the day with a declaration of protection. It could be a psalm, a decree, a specific prayer from your tradition. In Spiritism, Psalm 91 is widely used as spiritual protection before challenging environments. In Candomblé and Umbanda, there is an entire practice of smudging and asking for protection from the Orixás and guides. In Catholicism, there is the prayer to St. Michael the Archangel, specifically asking for protection against spiritual enemies. Use what resonates with you. What matters is consistency and intention. Furthermore, at the end of each workday, perform an intentional energetic cleansing. It could be a conscious bath where you visualize all the weight of the environment being washed from your field. It could be a walk outdoors with the intention of clearing what was absorbed. It could be a moment of silence and a specific prayer of release. Those who work in environments of great relational weight and do not perform this regular cleansing process accumulate energies that are not theirs, and that will interfere with the quality of their decisions, their relationships, and their health. The fourth movement is the strategic surrender of the conflict, and this is the one that most requires faith, and at the same time, most requires wisdom. It is the recognition that there are dynamics that are beyond what you can control directly, that there are narratives being constructed about you in spaces where you do not have access, that there are decisions being influenced by information that you cannot refute in real time. For all this, the spiritual answer is to surrender to God what is God's, not as an escape from responsibility, as a recognition of limits. You do what is within your reach, with excellence and with integrity, and what is beyond your reach, you trust that the spiritual field will operate. Proverbs 21 verse 30 says that no wisdom, no understanding, no counsel can prevail against the Lord. And the life of those who have already passed through a real injustice at work and persisted with integrity knows that this verse is a description of reality, not just an abstract promise. Write in the comments now. Yes, if you recognize someone specific in the profile I described, you do not need to name them. Just the yes is enough, because it will show me that this content is reaching the right people, and that these people are not alone in this situation. Because one of the most paralyzing things about being the target of a plot at work is the feeling of isolation, the feeling that no one sees what is happening, that if you try to speak, it will seem like paranoia, that you are alone in a game where the rules were made to harm you. You are not alone, and what is happening to you is not paranoia. Let me tell you about a situation I know from the inside, a situation that happens in companies, in schools, in hospitals, in churches, in public agencies, and in any environment where power relations and disputes for recognition exist. A woman of 47 years, I will call her Sandra, had worked for 12 years in a medium-sized company in Curitiba. She was competent, well-related, respected by clients and by most of her colleagues. 3 years ago, a new employee arrived on the team. I will call her only M, intelligent, articulate, very skilled in relations with leadership. For months, Sandra felt that something was wrong but could not name it. M always approached with kindness, asked about the projects, shared information that seemed to demonstrate trust, and Sandra, who was a person of good heart and good faith, opened up. 3 months later, in a restructuring process, Sandra was relocated to a function of lower visibility. She never knew exactly what was said about her in the backstages, but there were patterns that, looking back, were clear. The ideas she had shared with M appeared in M's presentation to the board. The difficulties she had confided appeared as arguments in conversations about her profile for a promotion that never came. Sandra's turning point did not happen in confrontation. It happened when she understood what had occurred, organized her posture, established new limits of access to her internal professional life, cultivated direct relations with the right people, and focused on delivering results that could not be ignored. 2 years later, she was in a better position than the one she lost, and M had revealed her own pattern clearly enough for others to see as well. The truth always reveals itself. The question is whether you will be in the right place when it appears. Reaching the end, I want to leave with you something that goes beyond protection and strategy, something that is the true gift that a situation like this can give you when you cross it consciously. Those who pass through real opposition in the work environment and face it with integrity come out the other side with a level of self-knowledge, resilience, and relational wisdom that would not be possible without that pressure. You learn to read environments. You learn to calibrate access. You learn to distinguish alliance from convenience. You learn to act from your own clarity without depending on external approval to validate what you know to be true. These are skills that no college, no course, and no leadership book teaches with the same efficiency that real adversity teaches, when you decide to learn instead of just surviving. The plot against you is real, and your purpose is greater than it. Continue building. Like Nehemiah, with one eye on the work and the other on the field around you, without descending into conflict, without abandoning the work. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Share this video with someone you feel is going through a similar situation at work and who is confused about what is happening. Sometimes naming the dynamic is the first act of liberation. And until the next video, remember, God did not place you in that environment for you to be destroyed by it. He placed you there for you to be revealed. And revealing what you are made of, when the pressure is maximum, is the test that transforms those who pass through it. The plot will unravel, the work will stand. You can trust.